What's going on, you guys? So I'm back with another video, and I actually wanted to talk about the concept of getting started. Or maybe not so much getting started, but rather the concept of attacking or trying to achieve an insurmountable task, something huge, and ways to achieve that. And so what I've learned is that to achieve anything monumentous, it starts with that little bitty first step. And so when I learned this was actually at an interesting time period. And so currently I'm in a sports medicine master's program, and it took a lot to get to this point for me. And one of those things and one of those hurdles, one of those insurmountable hurdles that I had to overcome to get to this point was taking advanced level chemistry classes. And so in taking those chemistry classes, I realized that in order to achieve huge, crazy, difficult problems, I needed to learn how to do the first step. And then once I learned how to do the first step, I could move on to the second step. But the key from step 1 to step 2 was not forgetting how to do the first step and making sure that first step was mastered, if you will. And so in this video, that's what I'm going to talk about, and that's what I'm going to explain. I want to explain mastering the first step to get to the second. And then once you've gotten both of those two mastered, first and the second step, then you can move on to the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, and however many steps it takes to achieve the insurmountable task that you're seeking or trying to achieve. But it's that first step that is really the key. And so when I was taking these chemistry classes, by the way, I will add, I had to take the class twice. Okay, so this was the second time I took the class, and it was the second time I took the class that I realized, okay, I know what the first time was like. I can recall, that was really the key, is being able to recall. But I can recall all the mistakes that I made in the first time taking it. Okay, so let me not make those same mistakes twice, and let me actually take away and learn from those mistakes that I made in the first time. And so what are those lessons? And when I got to taking the course the second time, I realized that the way to achieve, or the way to do the problem, and this really translates into everything, but this is specific to this example. The way to do this problem is to make sure that I have the first step figured out. I can do the first step. Okay, I can do the first step. Whether it be an equation, whether it be a formula, I can do the first step. And so once I figured out how to do that first step, I could then transition into the second phase of the equation, and then the third phase. And by the end of the 5 steps, I realized that I had solved the equation. I had figured out exactly how to do it. And so the interesting thing about what I'm sharing with you right now is that it wasn't this simple when I first started doing it. I mean, it wasn't this simple. I couldn't figure it out. How do I do this? That was my thought. How in the world do I do this? Of course, I had the book and all those things, but in your mind's eye, you're thinking to yourself, man, I don't know how to get from point A to point Z. I have no clue the direction. I do not know how to do it. I know that the information is in front of me, but I don't know how to use this information to get to where I need to get to. And so what I did was I made it basic. And that is the whole point of all of this. Starting at step 1, mastering step 1, breaking it down all the way to that simple level is the most basic thing you can do. And believe it or not, it's the basic things that get you to the end goal. Because believe it or not, every huge task is only a bunch of little basic steps put together, strung together to end up at the final goal. A bunch of little basic steps. But what happens is that I myself tended to look at the final thing and say, oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna get to that final point. I have no clue how to get from point A to point Z. And that was the flaw. That was the reason that I struggled to get to that end point. Is because I didn't look at it from a perspective of basic steps that required basic tactics to achieve. And once you put all those basic steps that you conquer or achieve using basic tactics, you then have something at the end that is, advanced or intermediate or just flat out difficult, and you were able to achieve it basically by stringing together simple steps along the way. And so that's what it's all about in achieving something huge, or transitioning from something to something totally different. For example, athletics to a career in medicine. A bunch of basic little steps. And so I think the most simplistic way that I can explain this is the concept of $100. Man, I am 12 years old, hypothetically speaking, I'm a 12-year-old. And $100 is like $1 million to me. And I'm trying to save my money from, doing chores, taking out the garbage, cleaning dishes, cleaning the bathrooms, chores that happen around the house that my parents have instructed me to do to earn an allowance. And my end goal with earning the allowance is to get to $100, which is like $1 million. I mean, it's a huge amount of money as a 12-year-old, right? And so how do you do it? What do you use? And so if you break that concept, if you break the $100 down to simple steps, you have a couple ways to get to that $100. You have 4 $25 segments to get to that $100. You have 10 $10 to get to that $100. You have $25 to get to that 100, or you have 100 ones to get to that $100, or you have what? Something like 10,000 pennies? Don't quote me on it. We might have to do the math on that. But if you break it down to the simple steps that I need to have, okay, I know I can get a penny. A penny is pretty easy to get. And so if I just get a couple thousand of these pennies, I can get to $100. And that basic approach, that simplicity of breaking it down to each individual step, and then picking the route that you want to take to achieve that end goal, whether it be 4 $25 increments or whatever way you decide that you want to get to that $100, that's the key. Breaking it down into little itty bitty steps, and then picking the most strategic route with those smaller steps to achieve your end goal. No matter the size, no matter the time, distance, anything. And so that's what I want to leave you with. If you watch this video to the end, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.